quite possibly the most exciting thing this park will bring. A whole nother tourist destination in addition to the park within the UK. It's really going to put the UK theme park industry back on the map. What's up guys, I hope you're all well. Welcome back to yet another video on the channel. First off, I want to apologise to you guys. I'm so sorry for the lack of content over the last few months. It's kind of been now, I think, months. Plainly because I've had a lot of uni work to contend with. I've had a very hectic couple of months. But I'm kind of back on track now and finding my feet again. So that's kind of why the last video I uploaded was a little bit out of date, kind of. There was a lot of things I said in there about opening that just really wasn't relevant because that was months ago now. But nevertheless, I'm back on track. I've got lots of content planned for the summer and beyond. So yeah, everything should be fine now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and thank you guys for staying very patient with me. But with that kind of out the way and all the kind of boring updates and whatnot about my life done and dusted, today's video, obviously over the course of this time that I've kind of been off or kind of not been posting videos, there's been a lot happening with Universal Studios Great Britain, and in today's video I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a different look. There's been plenty of awesome content creators out there that have been updating you guys on, of course, the construction of Universal Studios Great Britain and where it is at the moment. But yeah, I kind of wanted to distance myself a little bit from that because of, like I said, there's lots of, you know, YouTubers that have already done that and done it very well, might I say. You know, so I wanted to kind of take a different perspective and look at the top 5 things that I think have kind of been a bit overlooked about Universal Studios Great Britain and that are genuinely really exciting. So that's kind of the perspective I'm taking with today's video. You know, of course, we've had the official announcement now. It is happening, supposedly. It still doesn't really feel real to me. So it's a very exciting time in the UK theme park industry right now. And if you guys do want me to cover some of the construction going forwards, I can do my absolute best to do so. I'm a little bit far away from the construction site, a couple of hours. But if this is what you guys want, then I'm more than happy to do it because this is an absolutely monumental thing that's happening within the theme park industry. So it's a very exciting time. So, without further ado, I'm going to stop yapping now and we'll get into what is going to be number 5 on my things to be excited about. So, my number 5 on this list is kind of something that's quite common knowledge, but it's something that genuinely is probably getting me quite excited, you know, outside of the fact that we're getting the theme park itself, and that is 24/7 operations. Of course, if you guys are maybe in a different country that are not kind of familiar with this system, due to the amazing British weather, it's very difficult for a lot of the theme parks in the UK to remain open over the winter. Of course, they have to do scheduled winter maintenance, make sure everything's kind of tip-top, ready for the season that normally starts around about March time. I'm pretty sure Blackpool starts February over here, but it's normally around the spring sort of time, early spring, you know, late winter, that the theme parks actually start opening up again. But with Universal Studios Great Britain, that just isn't going to be a problem. We will have 24/7 operations at this park. Now, there's a number of things that this of course means. Number 1, it means that we won't really have a closed season for Universal Studios. It gives us something to kind of fall back on, you know, while things like Thorpe Park, Alton Towers, Chessington, Blackpool, all of those guys, when they're close to their winter maintenance, we will still have Universal Studios Great Britain to kind of go to and enjoy over the winter months. And of course, this is kind of a different system to how the UK theme parks normally work. Essentially the way that Universal normally structure their winter maintenance, because every park has to do it. It's not something they can just ignore. The standard way they do it is they just kind of close rides individually. So for example, over in Florida, they could close Jurassic Park River Adventure for maybe a couple of weeks to do the winter maintenance, and then remain a lot of the other rides open, and then they just kind of periodically shut down the rides they want to work on while the park is still open, which is a really good system, and it's something they're hopefully going to implement over here. I think they've already mentioned it multiple times already, you know, that they want to do 24/7 operations. So that is really exciting, and of course, you know, they're going to have to cater to the British weather because of course it's not exactly the most predictable thing in the world. Of course, we saw this in Beijing with the kind of cover over the initial entrance to the park itself. Of course, this is the most recent Universal theme park if we're talking in terms of, you know, a brand new park in a brand new location. Of course, we've recently had the opening of Epic Universe, which I'm very jealous about, by the way. I wish I was out there. But yeah, that's kind of the most recent new kind of park within a brand new area, and they definitely kind of took measures to make sure that, you know, there was cover for rain, there's a lot of dark rides involved, and I think they'll make sure that they've got a similar kind of system over here. Of course, you can't see it on the entranceway in the concept art, but I would imagine they'll implement the same thing they did with Beijing, where it's kind of got the cover that goes right along the kind of road that you walk down when you first come through the entrance. That way, if it is tipping it down, which does happen very often in the UK, then you will have somewhere to kind of go under and take cover, which is kind of, you know, a really good bonus. Of course, this isn't the only thing that's exciting about this. It also means if you buy a season pass to Universal Studios Great Britain, you will be able to use it all year round. This is something I've always kind of had a bit of a gripe with Merlin. Of course, Merlin offer a load of attractions as part of, you know, the Merlin annual passes, not just the theme parks, but me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people will also kind of feel this pain. You know, you're paying for an annual pass all year round and only really getting to use it from March to November, you know, at the latest. So it's nice to know that if you buy a, you know, Universal Universal Great Britain, you know, season pass, it means that you will be able to use it all year round with no restrictions, which is a really nice thing to be able to depend on. Like I said, Merlin's always done it. They've always kind of had, you know, the other attractions like in London that you can take part in, but a lot of people do just buy it for the theme parks, so it does mean that you kind of have a stagnant couple of months where you're not really getting your money's worth, but that should hopefully change with Universal Great Britain. Okay then, so on the number 4 spot on my list is going to be the fact that this is going to incite a lot of competition in the UK theme park industry. I think this is something that, you know, everyone's kind of excited about the brand new park, as am I, but this also has a lot of implications outside of Universal itself. Of course, the big contender in the UK at the moment is Merlin, and they have a very big mainstay, you know, within the UK theme park industry. Of course, owning parks like Chessington, Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, Legoland. They've got a lot of staying power, and this new kid on the block, Universal, coming in trying to sweep all of their competition. I think it's going to be really good for Merlin. I think it's going to be good for the UK theme park industry as a whole, because I think it's going to push for these parks to kind of go in their own directions, hopefully. I mean, we saw the Merlin statement about them wanting to continue implementing IPs after this, which I don't think is the right way to go. I more feel like, you know, Universal's going to be the big IP park. I was hoping this was going to be a kind of avenue for Merlin to go, okay, we'll focus on our original attractions, you know, which is where I think Merlin's strengths really lie. You know, attractions like Wicker Man, Swarm, you know, Hyperia specifically as well. They're very kind of popular brands within themselves, within the theme parks. So I'd love to see more of that implemented at the Merlin parks rather than the IP stuff. But obviously, without, you know, that kind of involved, it is still going to incite a lot of competition, and I think Merlin's gotten quite comfortable. As much as I love Merlin with all my heart, they have gotten quite comfortable in it, and I think this is going to be really healthy for the theme park industry to have that competition, you know, in a friendly competition at that. I'm not saying I'm going to pit Universal against, you know, Thorpe Park and that in a boxing match. I think, you know, it's just going to be nice to have that kind of extra, oh, come on, we need to push a little bit further. You know, not that they haven't been pushing the boundaries, but it just gives that little bit more of an incentive. And in addition to that, it just puts the UK back on the theme park map again. Obviously, back in, you know, the olden days, that's really cringe. I don't know why I said olden days. It's really not that long ago. I've probably just made a whole group of people feel really old out there right now. But back in the day at Alton Towers specifically, you know, with the original opening of Nemesis back in the 90s, you know, that was a huge thing for the UK theme park industry, and it really put the UK on the map. And I think this is going to do the same thing. I think putting a Universal park within the UK, it's really going to put the UK theme park industry back on the map. People are going to want to travel here, and if they're travelling here to try out Universal, it's only a couple of hours drive away from things like Thorpe Park and Alton Towers. You know, liken it to kind of if you were to go out to Florida at the moment, you know, you'd be able to do the Universal parks and the Disney parks, but then a couple of hours away, you of course got Busch Gardens that offers something a little bit different. I think that is something that could easily happen over here. You know, people could travel over, they could try Universal, do a couple of days there, then maybe travel to Thorpe Park. I think it's going to be really good for the UK theme park industry as a whole, you know, to be put back on the map again, and I think that's something that is going to be very important going forwards. Okay then, the next thing I've got on my list is something a little bit smaller, but it is something that personally I'm very, very excited about to do with this park, and that's stunt shows. This is something we really don't get a lot of in the UK anymore. You know, shows in general, I think, you know, over the last year we've recorded in the cuts to Merlin's Entertainment Force, which really is quite sad. You know, a lot of things such as, of course, the kind of pirate show at Legoland is now kind of being discontinued. There's a lot of shows that just don't happen anymore, and Universal is a really big avenue for shows like this. I mean, not just stunt shows, but, you know, theatre experiences. I mean, the most recent example we've seen of that is at Epic Universe, with the Untamable Dragon that's featured within the Isle of Berk. You know, that is a massive How to Train Your Dragon show that looks absolutely incredible. And like I said, on top of that, they have the stunt shows, which is something I've always wanted to experience. The stunt shows are really like fascinating to watch, because not only are you looking at a spectacle, you're also learning a lot about the industry and how stunts work. You know, it's just a really awesome experience, and I know that there's been a lot of rumours and a lot of speculation and even some leaks that they may well be doing the James Bond stunt show, which, if it is the case, is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm a massive James Bond fan, so that would honestly be my dream, to get a stunt show like that. You know, and I would love to see there be a couple of shows implemented in the park as a whole, because I think the UK theme park industry really needs some. I think it's a really nice experience to have at a theme park. Not everyone's going to be wanting to go on the big rides, so especially kids, I mean even adults alike, you know, going to see a stunt show or a theatrical experience is always a kind of welcome break from a lot of the action. So I really do hope we get a good view in this park. Okay, so the next thing I have, of course, within my list is CityWalk. You can't talk about Universal without talking about CityWalk, in my opinion. This is something that's very kind of like synonymous with Universal. You know, think of it kind of as the downtown Disney to Universal, you know, the parks themselves. It's not necessarily within the parks, but it is a whole nother experience that adds to a trip to Universal Studios. Of course, if you don't know what CityWalk is, it's essentially a collection of shops and kind of merchandise places and food and all this sort of thing, you know, that's kind of just outside of the park. You know, you kind of walk through CityWalk to get to the park entrance, and that is basically confirmed to be coming over here. So this is going to be a really interesting thing, not only because of the merchandise possibilities, but also because it's a whole nother tourist attraction, and having a whole nother tourist destination in addition to the park within the UK is a really good thing. You know, a lot of people that live in the Bedford area may well go to CityWalk just to have a nice evening out, and I think that's a really healthy thing, not only for the UK economy, but just for the UK in general. It means that there's a lot more experiences to be had, you know, around that kind of area, outside of London, because I think London is very much the big kind of mainstay of hub for entertainment in the UK, and it's nice to see that maybe being shared with something that's a little bit different. Okay, so moving on to finally, quite possibly the most exciting thing this park will bring, in my opinion, and that is, of course, Halloween Horror Nights. Now, this is something that it's just incredible. Like, I've always wanted to do Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal. You know, it's a huge thing, especially for, you know, Halloween events out in America and just the world in general. You know, if you don't know what this is, it is basically Universal's version of Fright Nights over here in the UK at Thorpe Park, but on a much larger scale. You know, you have world-class IPs that are turned into haunted houses. You know, you have special shows, merchandise, food. It is literally one of the greatest things in the theme park industry as a whole, and I've always wanted to do it. Now, this is a little bit more complicated than some of the other stuff that I've of course mentioned in today's video, because this isn't 100% confirmed, and I'll explain why that is in just a second. Essentially, there's been a lot of rumours that this was going to be part of this park for a while, and a lot of those rumours and a lot of those theories stem from one thing, and that is a trademark that was filed in November of 2022. This basically trademarked within the UK the name Halloween Horror Nights, and of course this came just before the announcement that Universal had bought the land over in Bedford to build this theme park. Now, when this trademark ends, it's currently 2031, I believe, or 2032, I think it's one of the two. Essentially, what people have gathered from this is that this trademark will end a year after the park has opened. So what this basically means is they've got the trademark there ready if they wanted to use this, and of course that means they might not want to use it, but it does mean that they kind of have put that precautionary measure in place so that if they did want to use it, then they can, which I think is a good indicator that at the very least they're thinking about it, and I don't see why they wouldn't want to bring Halloween Horror Nights over here. I think it's such a huge thing for Universal, and of course a couple of the Universal parks in America share this, so it would kind of be a missed opportunity not to bring it over here into America, England, sorry, because we don't really get a lot of Halloween hype over here anymore. You know, America, Halloween is massive. You know, you've got all these kind of cultural things in America that really stem from Halloween, and of course we do get Halloween events over here in, you know, Great Britain, you know, particularly with Fright Nights, a lot of scare parks also, but it'd be nice to bring some of that American Halloween magic over here to the UK, because I think it really needs it, and it's really, you know, I love Halloween, and I will always love Halloween over some of the holidays. I'm not going to say what, just in case people come and hunt me down, but it is just something that's very exciting as a prospect itself, and of course this also means that the park would be open extremely late, or early might I say, because Halloween Horror Nights has known to be going on into the early hours of the morning in some instances, you know, which is a stark change to something like Fright Nights, which is kind of from 10 PM in the morning to 9 PM at night. Halloween Horror Nights is a lot more kind of to the midnights into the early hours of the morning in some instances, like I said, not all, but it is a very like stark difference between what we have right now, and I welcome it. I'd love to stay at a theme park that early in the morning, you know, riding some of the roller coasters, doing some of the rides, enjoying the attractions. You know, that is part of some of the best things that you have in events like Fright Nights, is being able to experience this stuff, you know, late at night. And I think Thorpe Park and Alton Towers have kind of waned off that a little bit, decreasing the hours. You know, it used to be open till 10 PM, especially Fright Nights. This was really noticeable, and they've kind of moved it back to 9 PM. So it'd be nice to have a park that does include that and does kind of go balls to the walls with it, you know, early hours of the morning, or at the very least very late at night. And I think that's a very welcome addition to the UK theme park industry. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. That is my top 5 things to be excited about within Universal Studios Great Britain. Of course, no matter whether some of these come true, whether they don't, I'm just really ecstatic that we're getting a Universal park over here in the UK. It's something really special, and I honestly cannot wait to document this over the course of the next year or 5 years probably, you know, because it's a monumental thing to be happening. You know, it's one thing to have some big attractions being added over here in the UK like Hyperia, but it's a completely other thing to have a Universal park be featured in the UK for the first time. It's going to be like life-changing for me and a lot of other people, I'm sure. You know, it's going to completely rock the UK theme park industry in a really good way. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. Now, if you did go on to enjoy the video, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. I've had an absolute blast making this. Like I said, let me know down below if there's any video ideas you want to see me do. Do you want to see me kind of cover Universal a bit more? You know, it's kind of, you know, something I'm in and ahhing about. I don't really know whether or not to go balls to the walls just yet, because construction doesn't start until about a year's time, or next year I think they said. So definitely let me know down in the comments below. I've got a few other, you know, UK theme park related stuff that's happening right now to cover. Some stuff with Chessington, with Legoland, Alton Towers as well. So definitely stay tuned for that if you're interested. So I'm gonna start rambling now because I'm boring even myself. I'm gonna let you guys get on with your day. So I do hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a brilliant rest of your day, and I will see you guys within the next one.